Well, let's turn our attention now to the ferrous space. And there's plenty happening, both on the domestic steel industry as well as on the global front, with China exports continuing to remain at elevated levels. How can our regulators, as well as the people at the center, protect the domestic steel industry? Well, to help us out with some clarity, we have Sandeep Poundrik, the Secretary, Ministry of Steel, who joins in. Hi, Mr. Poundrik. Good morning. Thanks a lot for joining in. Always good to have you on the show, sir. Now, Street is waiting to hear from you, sir, because there have been some jitters with regard to this protection that you all were offering to the ferrous industry. Case in point being the safeguard duty. You all put it in at the right time. Then there was that notification that said that it's going to be in the works. However, the safeguard duty lapsed earlier in November, and there were some jitters about the way ahead. Is it delayed, the final notification, or is there some rethink? And if there's no rethink, by when do we expect this final notification with regard to safeguard duty on steel?
So thank you first for having me on the show. And on the safeguard duty, as you know that there is a process which was conducted by DGTR. And on the recommendation of DGTR, the provisional duty was imposed, which was effective till early November, 6th, 7th November. After that, the provisional duty has lapsed. However, DGTR has also recommended a safeguard duty for 3 years, which is under consideration with the government. So we can expect a decision pretty soon. I can't give you a time frame right now, but I will expect a decision of the government in the near future.
All right.
That's the best I can tell you.
All right, Mr. Poundrik, basically you're telling us that but currently is the safeguard duty already in works, that 12%?
No, after the provisional duty has elapsed, the safeguard duty is no longer there for the intervening period. If the government decides to reimpose it, means as per the DGTR final recommendations, then it will come into picture again.
But is there a risk, sir, that it doesn't, because in all probability, my interactions as well, whether I spoke to Tata Steel, JSW Steel, all of them indicated that it's coming. Just it could be a delay. It's not being put on the back burner. It's just a delay. Should we term it as a delay and we'll hear about it in the coming weeks?
As I said, the government decision should be there pretty soon. That's the best I can tell you. You know that since the matter is under examination in the government, I can't really give you a time frame or what the decision will be, but the decision should be there pretty soon.
Okay, we'll take it as pretty soon then, and the ferrous industry will be hoping sooner, not just soon, because otherwise we are at the risk of those imports coming in there. And the other point is, India relaxed the quality control regulations on steel imports. Why are we diluting BIS, sir? Do we have some kind of change in policy to facilitate maybe imports to help the SME players? Is there something on that front? I want to know the thought process.
So basically, before answering your question on quality control orders and BIS standards, I would like to point out the status of imports and exports.
Yes.
Now, if you actually see the import-export data vis-a-vis the data of the last year, the situation is much better in terms of trade imbalance as compared to last year. Last year, if you take the April to October data on steel exports and imports, last year the exports were less than half of imports, while this year they are more or less same. Imports are still slightly higher, but the situation is much better. Overall, the imports have reduced by 34%, and exports have increased by 25%. So just to give the background that in terms of trade imbalance in finished steel, the situation is much better than last year. Now coming to the issue of quality control orders and BIS standards. So there was a high-level committee made by the government, which has recommended certain measures to ensure that the export competitiveness and the efficiency of domestic market is maintained. Now, when we talk about domestic market, it includes both the steel producers as well as the steel consumers. So the idea is that the domestic consumer industry also gets steel at a reasonable price, and they are not adversely affected. So that's why there have been decisions to relax some quality control orders on BIS standards for a specific time. So for some standards, we have relaxed it, rather suspended the QCO for 3 years. For some, we have suspended the QCO for 1 year. It's also, for example, that in specialty steel, since we don't have production in certain grades, and specialty grades have to be imported, so we have relaxed, suspended the QCO for a year. And we hope that the domestic capacity will come by that time. So it's basically to balance the interests of both steel industry and the consumer industry both.
Okay, you're trying to do that balancing act in there. And Mr. Poundrik, in the past, you have said that India's per capita of steel will just move up from here on. I think we're ballpark around 105 kgs or thereabouts. And you said that, we're likely to head to around 140, 150 as well. So how are you seeing demand on ground? The growth has been very good. Steel consumption growth in India actually has been splendid if you compare it with the globe. Do you expect demand to continue at this sort of a pace, 8-9% kind of growth? And also the government may go easy on the capex, right, in the second half of the fiscal. You have steel capacities coming on stream as well. And suddenly you have no big avenue to export because of what the United States has done and the way China is flooding the system. Do you fear that we're getting into a place where, in fact, that growth, that demand growth for steel could come in a bit of a tough spot? Or do you believe the demand is strong enough?
Well, if you see the data, for last 3 years, our domestic consumption has been growing at more than 12%, in fact, at 12.5%. This year, the consumption growth is slightly lower as compared to last 3 years. It is about 8% April to October data. But we expect the growth to increase a bit as it normally does in the second half of the year, because after the festival season, the infrastructure and real estate picks up. Having said that, I will expect that this year it's around 9%, the consumption growth. If we see the export market, you're right, there are challenges, especially in European Union, where CBAM will affect exports as well as the proposed European Union quota changes. That will also affect exports. If we take USA into picture, we did not have much exports to USA anyway.
Yeah.
So that's not likely to affect us. Overall, the exports will come into challenge, but our expectation is that our domestic consumption itself, we expect it to, even if you take a 8 to 9% growth, it will be around 160 million ton. Domestic consumption, and our exports last year was only about 4.5 million tons. So exports do not make a large part of our overall production.
Okay.
Having said that,
yes,
there is a short-term challenge that the capacities are coming faster than the consumption growth, because as you know, the consumption growth, even if it increases it to 9%,
yes,
it will grow in a sort of a linear manner,
okay,
while the capacities come in spurts. So we already have a capacity of about 215 million ton. So in short term, there may be some stress on demand supply ratio, and we may have more supply than the demand for next 3 to 4 years. But I expect that the demand will catch up with supply as we move forward. So to answer your question in last one line, yes, I expect that the demand will continue to rise between 8 to 10%.
Mr. Poundrik, hi, good morning. Prashant here. There is, so let's just, 2025, I guess, has been such a volatile year, right? With tariffs, and it's essentially has been very, very difficult to call, so many twists and turns. So as we go into 2026, maybe a lot of these hotspots will cool down. You know, US, China, US, India, hopefully, very soon. And it'll be a more settled kind of a world. Maybe average tariff rates perhaps will be higher when they were where they were at the end of 2024, but more certain in that sense. Let's hope so. Once you have all this settled, do you think, generally speaking, you know, as you said, steel is in India largely a local story. It's not so much from our perspective, a big global story, provided we have that protection, etc., in place. But do you think once all these hotspots are settled and the environment is more certain, it should help in better prices? There's the China involution, anti-involution as well. And things should look much better in 26 over 25? It's a broad question.
Means to say that things should look up in terms of pricing. Yes, I think so, because two things. One, if you see the latest data from World Steel Association, the production of steel in other countries is going down. If you see the latest data, even China, the production in October has decreased significantly. So I would presume that the demand-supply scenario will improve. And the steel prices right now are at quite low level. And as the demand increases in coming months, I would presume that 26, the prices would stabilize from where they are right now. And the steel sector should be, in terms of pricing and in terms of getting realistic or rather reasonable price realization, it should look better. And that is also reflected in the fact that the steel sector is planning and executing capacities, not only in the executing, but also in planning. So both is happening, and that sorts of gives focus on this thing, that even the market is looking at the thing that the demand will keep growing.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Poundrik. And, you know, the building blocks have been in place. I think for the last 9 to 10 years, I've been seeing that every time the industry is in a bit of a tizzy, you'll come in there and you'll have helped the industry. And that's why we have a solid domestic ferrous sector, which is standing out in this volatile environment globally. And the point on China, yes, they're producing less. The problem is the exports are continuing at around that 10 million tons odd. Hopefully that cools off, because otherwise it's blocking avenues where we can export as well. But we'll talk about that in greater detail, you know, in the next time around. For the timing, the market will want to know a couple of factors. What about NMDC steel? Is there going to be a divestment? You said maybe, probably it will happen. Timeline is not sure. Do you think there has been some movement on that front? And if you could help us out with RINL, you know, how are things progressing out there? The turnaround strategy was in place. Progressing well?
So first, NSL, my answer remains the same. So the decision of divestment stands. The process is going on. There's no fixed time frame of when it will happen. So that's the status for now. Having said that, the plant is doing well. It is reaching almost 100% of its capacity in terms of production. Because of the low steel prices, they are not coming into a lot of profits, but in terms of operational efficiencies, they have improved quite significantly. So divestment, the decision stands. When, I can't really say. On the RINL, so as you know, last year this year, in fact, in January, government gave the package. They have used it well. I should say they have used it well. From 25% capacity in August 2024. Now they are running at about 80% capacity. Yeah. They should reach 100%, but you know, there are challenges in terms they have never actually ran at 100% for a long time. So they are getting operational challenges, which they are trying to address. But we hope that now the plant is on its way for revival on a sustainable manner, not in a short term. So we expect that RINL will continue to perform well and do well.
Okay, all right, Mr. Poundrik. Always a pleasure, sir, having you on the show. As you're telling us, both those two assets are ramping up well, NMDC Steel as well as RINL. But I'll tell you what, a lot of industry players as we speak have already messaged. They are hoping that that safeguard duty comes sooner than expected because they have been waiting, for the past 1 month or so for that notification to come in.
Since we have Mr. Poundrik, absolutely unfair question to you, sir, but you're one of the top bureaucrats in the government. On this India-US trade deal front, you're shaking your head already.
You better talk to my other colleagues who are dealing with it.
Okay.
I won't push you, but thank you very much for joining us, sir. Really appreciate it, and thank you very much.